The story of Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare is about two young people from these rival families who fall deeply in love, but their love gets tangled up in the hatred between their families. In the city of Verona, Italy, there's a bitter feud between two wealthy families, the Montagues and the Capulets. This bad blood has been going on for years, causing fights and chaos in the streets. The play is a tragedy, meaning it's full of intense emotions, misunderstandings, and a heartbreaking ending. In this summary, I'll explain the story in simple English, breaking it into paragraphs to make it clear and easy to follow, while diving deep into the characters, their choices, and the events that lead to the final tragedy. The story begins with a street brawl. Servants from the Montague and Capulet households start arguing, and soon their fight turns into a big public mess. Swords are drawn, and people from both families, including young men like Tybalt, a fiery Capulet, get involved. The citizens of Verona are fed up with this constant fighting. Prince Aeschylus, the ruler of Verona, arrives and is furious. He warns both families that if they disturb the peace again, they'll face severe punishment, even death. This sets the stage for the tension that runs through the whole story. The feud isn't just a background detail, it's a force that shapes everything that happens. Amid this chaos, we meet Romeo, a young Montague who's about 16 or 17 years old. He's not interested in the fighting. Instead, he's moping because he's in love with a girl named Rosalind, who doesn't love him back. Romeo's a romantic, full of big feelings, and he's dramatic about his heartbreak. His cousin Benvolio, a kind and level-headed guy, tries to cheer him up. Benvolio suggests they sneak into a party at the Capulet house, hoping Romeo will meet someone new. The Capulets are throwing this big feast, and Rosalind will be there, so Romeo agrees to go, even though it's risky since he's a Montague. At the Capulet house, we meet Juliet, who's not quite 14 years old. She's sweet, obedient, and hasn't thought much about love or marriage. Her mother, Lady Capulet, talks to her about marrying Paris, a nobleman who's handsome and wealthy. Juliet's not thrilled but says she'll consider it because her parents want her to. The Capulet party is a grand event with music, dancing, and masks, which was common at fancy gatherings back then. Romeo, Benvolio, and some Montague friends sneak in, wearing masks to hide their identities. Nobody recognizes them, except for Tybalt, Juliet's hot-headed cousin, who spots Romeo and is furious that a Montague dared to show up. At the party, something magical happens. Romeo sees Juliet across the room, and it's love at first sight. He forgets all about Rosalind. He doesn't know she's a Capulet yet, but he's drawn to her beauty and grace. They talk, flirt, and share a kiss, all while speaking in poetic lines that show how instantly connected they feel. It's like they're in their own little world, away from the feud. But then they learn the truth. Romeo finds out Juliet is a Capulet, and Juliet discovers Romeo is a Montague. Both are shocked and upset, but their feelings are already too strong to ignore. This moment sets up the central problem of the story. Their love is forbidden because of their family's hatred. Later that night, Romeo can't stop thinking about Juliet. He sneaks into the Capulet orchard and hides beneath her balcony. This is one of the most famous scenes in the play, often called the balcony scene. Juliet comes out on her balcony, not knowing Romeo is there, and starts talking to herself about her feelings. She says she loves him but wishes he wasn't a Montague, because their family's feud makes their love impossible. She famously says, "O Romeo, Romeo! Wherefore art thou Romeo?" Which means she's asking why he has to be a Montague. Romeo overhears her and reveals himself. They confess their love, and even though they know it's dangerous, they decide they want to be together no matter what. Romeo is so serious about Juliet that he goes to see Friar Lawrence, a kind priest who's like a mentor to him. Romeo asks the friar to marry them in secret. Friar Lawrence is surprised because he knows about the feud, and he also knows Romeo was just pining over Rosalind. But the friar sees a chance for something good. He thinks that maybe this marriage could bring peace between the Montagues and Capulets. So, he agrees to help. Meanwhile, Juliet sends her nurse, a funny and talkative woman who's like a second mother to her, to find Romeo and confirm the plan. The nurse meets Romeo, and he tells her to bring Juliet to the friar's cell that afternoon. Juliet sneaks out, and Friar Lawrence marries them in a secret ceremony. At this point, Romeo and Juliet are full of hope, believing their love can overcome everything. But things start to go wrong quickly. The very next day, Tybalt, still angry about Romeo crashing the Capulet party, is looking for a fight. He runs into Benvolio and Mercutio, Romeo's witty and loyal friend, in the streets of Verona. Tybalt insults Romeo, and when Romeo shows up, Tybalt challenges him to a duel. Romeo, now secretly married to Juliet, doesn't want to fight Tybalt because he's family now. He tries to calm things down, but Mercutio thinks Romeo is being weak and steps in to fight Tybalt himself. The fight is fierce, and Tybalt kills Mercutio with a sneaky stab under Romeo's arm. Mercutio dies, cursing both the Montagues and Capulets for their stupid feud. Romeo is devastated and furious. His love for Juliet made him avoid fighting, but now his loyalty to his friend takes over. He chases Tybalt and kills him in a rage. This moment is a turning point. Romeo realizes he's made a terrible mistake. Killing Tybalt doesn't just mean he's taken a life, it means he's broken the prince's rule against fighting. The prince arrives, and both families demand justice. Lady Capulet wants Romeo dead, but Benvolio explains what happened. The prince decides to banish Romeo from Verona instead of executing him, since Tybalt started the fight and killed Mercutio first. Romeo is heartbroken. Being banished means he'll be separated from Juliet, which feels worse than death to him. He hides at Friar Lawrence's cell, crying and despairing. The friar tries to comfort him, telling him to be grateful he's alive and to go to Mantua, a nearby city, until things calm down. Meanwhile, Juliet is waiting for Romeo to come to her that night, not knowing about the fight. The nurse arrives and tells her the awful news: Tybalt is dead, and Romeo killed him and is now banished. Juliet is torn apart. She loves Romeo, but Tybalt was her cousin, and she's angry at Romeo for killing him. Still, her love for Romeo wins out, and she's devastated that he's been banished. That night, Romeo sneaks to Juliet's room, and they spend one night together as husband and wife before he has to leave for Mantua at dawn. It's a beautiful but sad moment, because they know they might not see each other again for a long time. As Romeo leaves, Juliet has a bad feeling, like she's seeing him dead at the bottom of a tomb. The next morning, things get even worse for Juliet. Her father, Lord Capulet, decides she must marry Paris right away. He doesn't know she's already married to Romeo, and he thinks this marriage will cheer her up after Tybalt's death. Juliet refuses, which makes her father furious. He yells at her, calling her ungrateful, and threatens to disown her if she doesn't obey. Lady Capulet sides with her husband, and even the nurse tells Juliet to forget Romeo and marry Paris. Juliet feels completely alone. She decides to go to Friar Lawrence for help, even thinking about killing herself if she can't find a way out. At Friar Lawrence's cell, Juliet meets Paris, who's there planning their wedding. She's polite but cold to him, and once he leaves, she begs Friar for help. She says she'd rather die than marry Paris. Friar Lawrence comes up with a risky plan. He gives her a potion that will make her seem dead for 42 hours. The plan is for Juliet to drink it the night before her wedding to Paris. Her family will think she's dead, put her in the Capulet tomb, and when she wakes up, Romeo will be there to take her away. The friar will send a letter to Romeo and Mantua explaining everything. Juliet agrees even though she's scared, because it's her only hope to stay with Romeo. Juliet goes home and pretends to agree to the marriage with Paris. That night, she's terrified about drinking the potion. She worries it might not work, or worse, it might actually kill her. She imagines waking up alone in the tomb, surrounded by her dead ancestors, and it freaks her out. But she loves Romeo so much that she drinks the potion anyway. The next morning, her family finds her, dead, and is devastated. The nurse wails, Lord and Lady Capulet cry, and Paris mourns his bride-to-be. They don't know it's all fake, and they prepare her body for the tomb, thinking they've lost her forever. Meanwhile, in Mantua, Romeo is trying to stay hopeful, waiting for news from Verona. But the friar's plan goes wrong. The letter explaining the potion never reaches Romeo because the messenger, Friar John, gets stuck in quarantine due to a plague. Instead, Romeo's servant Balthasar hears about Juliet's death and rushes to tell him. Romeo is shattered. He thinks Juliet is really dead and decides he can't live without her. He buys poison from a poor apothecary, planning to go to Juliet's tomb and die beside her. He's determined to be with her, even in death. Back in Verona, Friar Lawrence learns that his letter never got to Romeo. He panics and heads to the Capulet tomb to be there when Juliet wakes up. At the same time, Romeo arrives at the tomb, carrying the poison. He runs into Paris, who's there mourning Juliet. Paris thinks Romeo is there to disrespect the Capulets, and they fight. Romeo doesn't want to fight, but Paris won't back down, and Romeo kills him. Romeo then sees Juliet in the tomb, looking peaceful and beautiful, not knowing she's alive. He's overwhelmed with grief, kisses her one last time, and drinks the poison. He dies just moments before Juliet starts to wake up. Juliet opens her eyes and sees Romeo dead beside her. She's heartbroken and confused. Friar Lawrence arrives and tries to get her to leave because the town's watchmen are coming, alerted by the noise. But Juliet refuses to go. She finds Romeo's poison and tries to drink some, but there's none left. Instead, she takes his dagger and stabs herself, dying beside him. It's a gut-wrenching moment. Both lovers are dead, and their deaths could have been avoided if things had gone differently. The watchmen find the bodies, along with Paris's, and the whole city is in shock. The prince, Lord and Lady Montague, and Lord and Lady Capulet arrive at the tomb. Friar Lawrence explains everything: the secret marriage, the potion, the failed letter, and how it all led to this tragedy. Lord Montague reveals that his wife died that night from grief over Romeo's banishment, adding to the sorrow. The prince blames the feud for all the deaths, saying it caused this senseless loss. In the end, the Montagues and Capulets finally see the cost of their hatred. They agree to end the feud, and Lord Capulet and Lord Montague shake hands. They promise to build statues of Romeo and Juliet to honor their love and remind everyone of what happened. The prince closes the play with a sad reflection, calling it a glooming peace, because the peace comes at such a terrible price. The story ends with a heavy lesson about love, hate, and the consequences of holding grudges. The tragedy of Romeo and Juliet is more than just a love story. It's about how love can be powerful but also fragile when it's caught up in bigger forces like family loyalty, pride, and violence. Romeo and Juliet's love is pure and intense, but they're young and impulsive, and their choices, like Romeo killing Tybalt or Juliet trusting the potion plan, lead to disaster. The adults in the story, like the parents and even Friar Lawrence, make mistakes too. The friar's plan was well-meaning but risky, and the parents' refusal to listen to their children's feelings made things worse. The feud itself is the real villain, a pointless cycle of hate that destroys everyone it touches. The play also shows how quickly things can spiral out of control. One moment of anger, like Romeo's decision to fight Tybalt, or one piece of bad luck, like the undelivered letter, can change everything. Shakespeare wrote this story to make people feel the weight of these choices and chances. Even though it's set in a faraway time and place, the emotions, love, anger, grief, are universal. People still fall in love against the odds, and families still fight over things that seem important but end up causing pain. In Verona, the story of Romeo and Juliet becomes a legend. The golden statues the families promised to build are a symbol of their regret and a warning to others. The play doesn't just end with sadness. It leaves you thinking about how love and hate can shape lives. Romeo and Juliet's love was real, but it wasn't enough to overcome the world they lived in. Their deaths force everyone to face the truth and try to do better. It's a story that sticks with you, not just because it's sad, but because it feels so human. Please like and share the video. Subscribe the channel. Summary of which chapter do you want? Write in the comment box.